Ariel's blog. That is the beginning that I came up with, and it's really terrible. So we'll just have to try again next time. I am very tired today. It's snowing, which is why I keep looking. I like opened the curtains to try to get natural light in here, and it's overcast and snowing, so I guess I failed. I have a doctor appointment later, and they told me I couldn't have any caffeine today, so I'm like very sleepy and a little out of it today. But there's big news in the author world, the indie author world anyway, which is that Written Word Media, which is a marketing company that mostly works for and supports indie authors, released their annual survey. I think they're getting a lot better. Some of the previous surveys were kind of like not great in terms of like structure, like the way the questions were asked. Some of the last year's survey I wasn't a huge fan of. I thought it was uh I don't know, not great. I'll just say that. However, that said, there are not a lot of organizations who are collecting and analyzing data for indie authors. And so I'm a big supporter. I'm a big fan. I fill out the survey every year. I'm really happy they're doing it, even if I don't always love, their methodology or whatever. I'm not an expert at surveys and data or anything. I usually have my husband, who is an analyst, look it over and tell me all of the things they did good and all of the things that they, could have improved. Ally, which is the alliance. Wow, it's really snowing now. Big flakes because it's kind of warm outside, so it's like really big wet flakes. It's really pretty. Um, anyway, Ally, the Alliance of Independent Authors, which I think is based in the United Kingdom, they did their first survey this year, which I think was really good. They have a pretty wide audience, and their audience is different than the written word media audience. So um, I uh, I'm excited to see what they do next year as they sort of figure out what their process is and improve the um, survey as well. Anyway, it got me to thinking because Written Word Media said in their post about it that they had over 2,000 respondents to the survey. And I was like, that's pretty good. I don't know 2,000 authors personally. I know a couple hundred in sort of my like wide network, people who like, if you threw their name in front of me, I've met them or I've talked to them or I'm friends with them or whatever. Um, and so I was like, I wonder how many indie authors there are. Again, not a easy thing to figure out because none of the big companies like Amazon are kind of pulling this type of data. Um, Also, you have to define indie author. But anyway, I Googled it really quick because I was like, what does the internet say? And I found a statistic, whether it's good or not, I'm not even going to cite it, but that said that there was like 48 to 50,000 indie authors. And I was like, that's a lot. And then I was like, actually, that's not a lot. Like there's 8 billion people in the world and only 50,000 indie authors, but we still somehow managed to make a good we own like I don't know 20 to 30% market share in the ebook industry anyway. At least that's what past data has said. Again, there's not like really good info on this, especially at an industry level. Bowker, who owns ISBNs, they do like some data, but most of the data that they pull is from publishers, like big publishers, which is focused obviously around traditionally published authors and traditionally published books. And they don't pull nearly as much information about indies. A lot of indies don't even buy ISBN numbers. They use the free ones that are provided by the book distributors. So, you know, I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting to think about. 50,000 people is like a single football stadium. I mean, I can imagine getting all the indie authors in the world together in the same place at the same time. But that's like a town size, it's a large town. a small city. I don't know what the numbers are for towns and cities. Like, at what point does a town become a city? I don't really know. But I just think it's really interesting to think about. There's not that many of us, at least in the grand scheme of the whole world. I should have looked up how many authors as a whole there are alive, I guess. It says a lot more if you include authors who are dead, but whatever. Another fun fact that you might find interesting is that the current iteration of publishing industry is only like 15 years old. Um, indie publishing, indie publishing has always been a thing. Like people talk shit about indie authors, but it's like literally always been a thing. I bought a book recently. I don't remember which one it is, and it was from like 1783 or something, right? This is like a old book. 1700s is it's pretty old, especially if you're in the United States. It's hard to find books that are this old, right? So and in the title page it said that it was published, um it was written by like a lord of some kind, and it was published by a group of lords who felt that the information was valuable enough that they were willing to invest in the printing of the book. It wasn't done by what we think of like traditional publishers, right? Like Simon and Schuster or whatever. And the current traditional model of publishing is like only like 100 years old. So everybody thinks about publishing as like this like immutable thing, but it's really not. It's changed a lot over the years. Um, and it's super interesting. I don't know. I think it's super interesting. Anyway, the current iteration of indie publishing really became a viable option in the mid 2000s, the 2000s. I don't know. What do you call that decade? Like 2005 to 2008 when Amazon started to take off. And Amazon actually started with ebooks. They made, the initial ebook file super easy to distribute to readers. They made the ebook reader, like the Kindle reader, e-reader, super easy for people to buy ebooks and read them digitally. And obviously it's exploded since then. But like when I first started publishing, so I published my first book in 2013. When I first started publishing, I couldn't publish on Barnes and Noble. Like Amazon was really the Amazon and Smashwords were really the only two companies that I could publish through. And way back then, Smashwords interface was just like really difficult. And then Pronoun became a thing, and a lot of people probably don't remember Pronoun, but Pronoun was like an aggregator. So you published your book on Pronoun, and they would publish it out. But then Pronoun just like went bankrupt and disappeared literally like overnight. And I remember distinctly because it came right at a point, I don't remember the year, but it came right at a point where I was thinking about using them as a service to try to get my books on more distributors. And I went and looked them up and I was like thinking about it. And I think they charged a fee or something, like it would cost money. And then when I went back to actually do it, they were gone. And it was like huge news in the indie world, like Pronoun just disappeared and left everybody hanging. Um, so Draft to Digital is an aggregator now, and they enable you to get your books on lots and lots and lots of different sites. A lot of sites allow you to go direct now. You can just upload. Barnes and Noble started doing it, I think in like 2016, maybe. Um, Kobo, Google Play was a pain in the ass for a long time, and they recently redid their interface, and it's so much easier now. It's probably one of the easiest interfaces to use now. I actually really like them. But it's just crazy how much has changed like since I started. Completely different. Everything is different. And it's like, I don't know. There's some things that have gotten a lot easier. Um, like the ability, like the platforms that you can use are so much more streamlined and user friendly. It's much easier to know what you need. The only one who's still like way behind the times, which you might be surprised to find this out, is Apple. Apple I mean, I guess to be fair, I haven't checked in a while, but their interface for uploading to their platform, if you don't have Apple tools, is horrible. Absolutely horrible. Like, I actually make a lot of sales on Apple, but I make most of them through Draft to Digital because I gave up after, I think I published 4 or 5 books through them directly, and I just gave up because it was so complicated and confusing, and there was no good information. Like, you just get an error message like your book's not right, and it will be like, well, what is wrong with it? It worked on literally every other platform, so what's your problem? Anyway, obviously I have a bone to pick with Apple. It might be one of the reasons I switched from an iPhone to an Android, because I was just like, I can't deal with you guys anymore, you suck. um there was something else I was going to say that I think is interesting. What was it? Oh, so things have gotten a lot easier. That's one of thing that's changed. A lot of companies have either disappeared or like bought each other. So Draft to Digital bought Smashwords. So that has been interesting. I think that happened in the beginning of 2022. It's hard to keep track of like when things have happened. Um, so that has been interesting. Amazon bought CreateSpace. CreateSpace was a print book, like a book printer. And let's see. So Amazon originally only did ebooks, and then they bought CreateSpace, and they kind of like sucked CreateSpace into their larger ecosystem in order to make it easier for them to print and publish paperback books. Initially, they only did paperbacks, and Ingram Spark was the only company that could do like hardcovers and other different types of print books. But now Amazon also does hardcovers and paperbacks, and you can use them for large print and a bunch of other stuff as well. Um, so it's super interesting. I had someone message me recently and ask me about some of my print books, and they wanted to know where the best place to buy them was. This is the other thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately, because a lot of people have a lot of feelings about big corporations and big companies, and I've had this issue multiple times. So, a couple years ago, a person, not someone that I knew well, but like who lived near me, um, sent me a message on Facebook and said they wanted to buy a copy of one of my books, and I didn't happen to have any copies of my books on me, of the one that they wanted. And they were like, I went to a local indie bookstore and I couldn't find it. And I want to support indie bookstores. And I was like, that's great. And I was like, but indie bookstores don't usually carry indie books. This is just kind of a fact. It's kind of the way it works. Indie bookstores and indie authors are actually probably more competitors than indie authors are to each other, interestingly enough. And I was like, it often doesn't happen because indie bookstores have very specific requirements in terms of like what books they'll carry, and a lot of times the indie book authors' books don't qualify because traditionally published books are backed by like this huge corporation, so they'll take returns and they can suck up a lot of losses, and indie authors just don't have that capacity. They don't have the capacity to do that kind of thing. Wow, I love snow. It's so pretty. Um, sorry. Anyway, so I messaged him back and I was like, honestly, the easiest thing you can do is buy it on Amazon. I was like, I'll make the most money that way. If you're not comfortable buying it on Amazon, then it is available through Barnes and Noble. And he was like, well, I really want to buy it through an indie bookstore. And I was like, well, you can walk into that indie bookstore and ask them to order you a copy of my book. But if you do that, they're going to charge you $20 because they're going to have to order it from Amazon or Barnes and Noble. And I never heard from that guy again. And it bothered me because everybody wants to support indie bookstores, but nobody wants to support indie authors. And I find it very confusing. Like, indie bookstores exist because authors write the books. So I get people don't want to work with Amazon, but in terms of being an indie author, like, they're the biggest company in the business. If I didn't work with Amazon, Amazon accounts for 50% of my monthly sales every month. And they're a lot easier to work with than a lot of other companies because they are so big. And so there's like all these little mini paradoxes. And what ends up happening is that people won't buy your books if you don't make them available to them in the way that they want them available. They don't actually care about supporting indie authors in a lot of cases. Um, they just want to buy books the way they want to buy books, and and honestly, that's fine. But it can definitely be challenging as an author trying to navigate everything that readers want while also having to navigate all of the restrictions sort of like in the macro industry. I have a review on one of my books on Aria's Aria from Aria's Song. It's book one of the trilogy. And the reader said this was a great because I had done like a free book promo on it. And the reader read it and she was like, this book is really, really good. I really liked it. She was like, please put it in Kindle Unlimited. And I was like, I can't put it in Kindle Unlimited. Kindle Unlimited is a book platform, part of Amazon, where you can pay a monthly amount. And I think it's like $12. They recently raised the price. It was 10. I think it's gone up. And you can kind of check out books and as a reader, and you can read as many as you want within a month. And so it's kind of like a streaming or like a subscription type membership for book readers. Kobo also has one if you're interested in that kind of thing. I think theirs is a little cheaper. It's like $7 or $8 a month. So the way it works is authors get paid by page read, so they track the number of pages that you've read, and that's how they determine what we get paid. So anyway, this person was like, can you please put your books in Kindle Unlimited? And I was like, I can't. And the number one reason I can't do that is because Amazon, it's the number one restriction for people who put their books in Kindle Unlimited is that you can't have your books published anywhere else. So they literally prevent you from publishing your books anywhere else on any other platform. I can't make them available on Barnes and Noble. I can't make them available on Kobo. I can't make them available on Google Play. Ebooks specifically, we're talking about, not paperbacks. If I also want my books to be in Kindle Unlimited. And so there's all of these like restrictions within the industry that people just don't know about, their readers don't know about, and it makes it like very challenging. Anyway, the person who messaged me recently asked where they could buy the books, and I said, Amazon, I'll make the most money, and you get 2-day shipping if you have Amazon Prime. And you know what they did? They bought them on Amazon. So, um, my number one piece of advice, if you want to know the best way to buy books from an author, is to ask that author what the best way to buy books is. Don't assume that it's best to go to an indie bookstore. Don't assume it's best to buy directly from that author. Ask them because different authors use different distribution models, and so it's really going to depend. So that would be my one piece of advice if that's something that you're curious, especially as we're going into December, the holiday season, and people like to buy books as gifts. Yes, buy books as gifts, and however you buy those books is okay. It's okay. The only way an author doesn't make money is if you buy them secondhand. But I'm still a fan of buying books secondhand. So whatever works for you. Or if you really care about the author, the person writing the book, ask them the best way to buy the books, and they'll tell you. All right, man, my vlogs, which are supposed to be like under 10 minutes, have been going long. So, c'est la vie. Such is life, friends. I'm going to stare out at the snow and maybe make an Instagram story about the snow. So, I hope you have a good day, and TTYL. See you later, alligator. I need to come up with a sign off. Ariel's vlog. Signing off. That's not good. That's not good. I'll work on it. I'll workshop it, I promise.